Welcome back to Infinite Podcast, folks. I'm here with my main man, Simon, and we're diving into digital dilemmas. So, Simon, overinformation, you think it's jamming up our joy circuits? It's like when you got 50 kinds of chips in the store. Does that thrill you or just make you want to bolt? And don't get me started on social media, the old grass is greener scenario reaching new heights online. What's your take?
Oh, the chip aisle is my nemesis, Joe. Too many choices make my brain go haywire. It's like, am I in a relationship with sea salt and vinegar when I could be living it up with honey barbecue? Social media is the same. You scroll through thinking everyone's got it better. Maybe ignorance was bliss? Just give me 5 chips to choose from and friends who don't vacation every other day.
See, I gotta disagree with you there, buddy. A ton of choices means better odds of finding exactly what you like. Sure, the search can be exhausting, but remember, having options is a luxury. As for social media, come on, everyone's life looks cooler online. It's all filters and fake smiles. The trick? Don't buy into it. Make your own reality the best place to be. Fewer chips, more dips, my friend.
But see, that's the thing. When you've got too many options, making a choice feels like a chore. And yeah, having choices is nice and all, but at some point it's like, how different can sour cream and onion really be from Cool Ranch? As for social media, sure, nobody's life is as glossy as they post it to be, but you try telling that to your brain at 2 a.m. when you're knee-deep in someone's vacation pics, feeling like a potato. It messes with you.
Whoa, 2 a.m. spirals? That's rough. But here's the deal. We've got to take control. Like it's on us to hit that unfollow button or chuck the phone out of the bedroom when the clock strikes midnight. The thing is, overinformation isn't slowing down, so we need to learn how to sift through the noise. Because choice overload or not, nobody's forcing us to keep scrolling. It's a mental gym session. You decide which weights to lift, right?
See, that's where you lost me. Lifting weights doesn't sound like fun at all. But fair point, Joe. Personal control's a biggie. Guess we gotta do some brain push-ups to stop the late-night doom scrolling. Boundaries, man. Boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries. So, I remember this one time, right? I was deep into renovating the house, and I'd be up late scrolling through endless feeds of home designs. And I mean, it's like a vortex that sucks you in with beautiful homes you start wishing were yours. It's wild, truly. But hey, here's what I figured. By the next morning, all that inspiration became confusion and nothing got done. I'd seen too much stuff, had too many ideas floating around in my skull. So I just went back to basics, picked what mattered to me most, and stopped second guessing. Ended up choosing that cozy, rustic look, and honestly, never been happier with the living room vibes. Kept it simple, and it felt just right.
Yeah, but see, I went the opposite way with the home reno stuff. Every time those design pics flashed before my eyes, it was like eating just one more chip. You can't stop. I remember telling myself, simple is boring, man. And before you know it, I've got vintage space age industrial whatever it's called coming out of my ears. But in the end, my place looks like a museum for confused architects. So maybe filtering and sticking to a theme ain't such a bad idea after all. Simple might just save your sanity, folks.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. You got to channel that inner zen or something. Keep it chill with the choices. So, like with all that going on in your place, do you even find one spot that's sort of your go-to for a breather, or is it all just chaos?
Well, it's like even amidst the chaos, there's this one corner kind of shoved between the Art Deco bookshelf and the retro futuristic lamp where I can just collapse into this beanbag. It's my little island of calm, dude. But that's the kicker, ain't it? Uh, with overinformation, sometimes you need to create those physical and mental no-go zones, right? Just to catch a break from the constant buzz of like new, better, shinier, or whatever's getting thrown at us. Breathe in, breathe out, and enjoy the simple stuff.
So, on that note, the simplicity thing, it's crucial. With all this digital clutter, it's like every app beeping, every device buzzing, our heads get crowded, man. So finding your beanbag spot, right, both in life and in your mind, that's gold. It's about like tuning out the noise. Here's a nugget for you. They did this study, right, where more information didn't just make decisions harder, it actually made them worse. Like we botch things up if our brains are too flooded. And that's exactly why those no-go zones are key. You got to zone out to zoom in on what counts. We're all grasping for peace with the volume turned way up, but sometimes, just sometimes, turning it down, taking that breath, it gives us space to figure out what we really want from the noise. Breathe in, breathe out, folks. Keep it real simple.
Uh, you know, Diving a bit deeper into that, keeping it simple mantra, history's got these hints that maybe less was kind of more. Think about it. Back in the old days, without all those gadgets screaming for attention, folks had more headspace to just live. Now, I'm not saying everything was peachy, definitely not. We've made some solid progress since then. But there's this idea floating around that with fewer choices, people were sort of, well, naturally more present and happier, maybe? It's like when every decision ain't a brain burner, you get to enjoy moments as they come, savor them. And then there's the community angle, right? Tight knit, knew your neighbors, and all that jazz. Happiness might have been more about who's at your table rather than what's on it. Breathe in, breathe out. Simplicity might have its perks after all, huh?
Yeah, there's substance to that idea. Less can indeed be more. It's like trimming the fat off your daily info intake might just enrich the flavor of life, right? But then again, can we really go back to those times? Or is it more about finding balance in today's hyper-connected world? Maybe the secret sauce is sprinkling a bit of the old school on our digital steak, huh? Keeps you wondering, what's the real recipe for contentment nowadays?
You're onto something, Joe. It's like we're trying to toss vintage vibes into our modern mix. And that sets up this burning question. Were people actually happier in the good old days? Because you hear those stories, right? Less tech, less noise, just more raw life. But then again, maybe that's just the nostalgia goggles talking. Wonder if folks back then were feeling like everything was top notch or if they had their own fuss about stuff.
Hmm, I get where you're coming from with the nostalgia bit, but let's not rose tint it too much. Remember, simpler times weren't always sweeter. Like, history's got its share of tough tales, man. Think about medical care back in the day or public sanitation. Weren't exactly happy times for all. And consider this, today's complexity might just be tomorrow's good old days, right? It's a cycle. So maybe happiness isn't tied to an era, but how we adapt to changes, how well we manage the noise to find our tune. That's it. Happiness might just be about striking that chord between chaos and calm.
Yeah, totally. So, like, even back in those simpler times, right? It wasn't all sunshine and daisies. People had their struggles, wars, plagues, no Netflix. But then again, they maybe appreciated the small stuff more because they weren't bombarded with choices or ads telling them they needed the next big thing to be happy. The kicker is, people throughout history have always found ways to seek out joy, whether through family, faith, community, or just enjoying nature. It's like happiness has always been this personal recipe, a little dash of what you have mixed with making the best of it. And as for us modern folks, I'm thinking that part of our unhappiness might come from knowing too much. Like we literally carry around devices that remind us there's always something better to chase, and that can mess with your head. Deep breath in, deep breath out. We gotta find joy in our own stories, not just the highlight reels of everybody else's, huh?
Uh, yeah. Man, you nailed it. Like it's this constant game of comparison, and we don't take the time to just stop, breathe in, and actually smell the roses, literally or figuratively. Sometimes I catch myself scrolling through stuff, and it just like drains me. And you're right about those personal recipes for happiness. It's like deep down we know what makes us content, but all this noise blurs it out. And when everything goes quiet, that's when you can really listen to what your own voice is telling you. That's why sometimes I just sit back, take a slow breath in, hold it, and then just let it out, let go of all that buzz. Appreciating those small moments, like enjoying a cup of coffee or laughing with someone, that stuff's golden. Kind of reminds you to hold on tight to what truly matters, despite every device at your fingertips screaming otherwise.
Imagine if we all had a throwback Thursday where we ditch the tech and go full on old school, like sunlight for screens and actual talking instead of texting. Who knows? We might just rediscover some lost piece of happy in that quietness.
That's a wild idea, like an unplugged day. But then I gotta ask, is going back really the answer? We romanticize those times as if they had the secret to happiness on lock, but man, there were plenty of downsides too, you know? The grass ain't always greener. Plus, historical happiness, that's tricky, because it's tough to pin down. Historians don't always focus on how happy people were. Instead, it's about events, wars, inventions. But from tidbits, we can guess community played a big role in happiness back then. And today, you gotta admit, we're connected more than ever, yet loneliness is at an all-time high. So sure, living without tech for a day might give us a break from complexity and help us breathe easier for a sec. But happiness ain't just about tech or lack thereof. It's deeper. It's feeling fulfilled, involved, valued. Maybe the true gig is blending the best bits of the past with our future-forward lives, or at least trying to. Let's not forget nostalgia is a filter, not the whole picture. Breathe in, breathe out. What we're really hunting for might be right here in front of us, mixed in with the chaos of today, waiting for us to notice. Okay, diving into some facts. Historical happiness isn't easy to quantify, but looking at literature and diaries from the past can offer insight. Communities were tighter, right? But the support networks of kin and neighbors, that's declined with urbanization. Now flash forward. Research suggests modern society has higher rates of depression and anxiety. Could be due to overstimulation and choice overload, or maybe it's more about how society functions as a whole. World Happiness Report says factors like income, social support, life expectancy, freedom to make choices, trust, and generosity are key to happiness today. Past times might have lacked in some of these areas. No 401ks or health insurance back then, huh? So bottom line is, the simplicity of the past had challenges. We've tackled many with progress. The quest for happiness ain't new, just the battlefields have changed. It's all about finding balance. Yeah, that word again, in whatever century you're living in. Breathe in, breathe out. Let's keep unraveling this timeless yarn.
That reminds me of this little adventure my grandpa used to tell me about, like back in his day. So he lived in this tiny village, right? And every week, this dude had to walk miles just to mail a letter or buy basic stuff. But hang on, here comes the good part. He talked about these walks like they were the highlight of his week. Now, on those treks, the guy befriended everyone, from the grouchy baker to the kids playing stickball. It wasn't about errands for him, it was his social media, minus the media part. He'd come home like buzzing with stories, his face lit up every time he told them, even decades later. So when we talk balance and happiness looking at him, the richness of his life didn't come from things or choices. It was human connection that did the trick. Important thing is, yeah, he faced tougher times, no doubt, but he found joy in what he had, like the people around him. Breathe in, breathe out. Makes you think, doesn't it? Maybe our modern battlefield is figuring out how to bring that kind of community spirit into today's fast-paced world.
Yeah, man, your grandpa's story hits home. It's wild. You gotta wonder if that kind of connection is the secret ingredient we're missing these days. Like, maybe happiness isn't in the gadgets we own, but the relationships we build and maintain. So here's a thought. What if true happiness comes from that same simple place across all ages? Those genuine face-to-face connections like what your grandpa had. Times change, problems evolve, but the bones, those stay the same. We'll keep dissecting this one, folks. Breathe in, breathe out. Has our pursuit of happiness become too complex with modern advancements? Or are we just spinning our wheels looking for something that was right there all along? A simple hello to a neighbor, perhaps? What do you think makes for a fulfilled life in today's world compared to the past? Let's chew on it.
Man, speaking of funny stuff, have you seen these pets confused by filters? There's cats with human mouths and dogs belting out opera. Gets me every time.
For sure. It's like the internet really changed the humor game. With just a tap on our screens, we're bombarded with memes, videos, and yeah, cats acting like people. It's insanity. Humor's evolved from telling a joke at the bar to capturing your pug's existential crisis in a TikTok. And everyone digs it because it's relatable, like brings people together in these unexpected ways. But then sometimes information overload hits, causing mix-ups that are hilarious in their own right. Ever sent an eggplant emoji thinking it's innocent and learned otherwise? Yeah. And breathe in, breathe out. Our digital lives can be these echo chambers where the punchline gets twisted. We're laughing together while also learning that sometimes too much knowledge can lead to comedic disasters.
Yeah. So like considering this whole language of emojis we've got now, right? Back in the day, a simple smiley was enough to convey happiness. But now we've got, over 1,000 tiny pictures, and each one can mean a dozen different things depending on who you're talking to. It's nuts. So, here's something to chew on. This overabundance of symbols has created a sort of comedy of errors. Ever replied to your boss with crying, laughing face when you meant just, regular crying? And then you're like, wait, hold on, not funny, tragic, and breathe in and out. With way too much info at our fingertips, interpreting messages becomes its own kind of puzzle. What's hilarious to some might be a head scratcher to others. We're all learning how to speak this universal net lingo, and boy, does it make for some side-splitting misunderstandings.
Right? Emojis might seem small, but they're like a whole new dialect, man. And this overkill on emojis and GIFs, it could be desensitizing us to, the classic punchline. You send a well-crafted text joke punctuated with just the right emoji, bam, instant laughs. But hit them with a wall of text, eyes gloss over, and breathe in and out. The irony is that we got tons of info about how to connect better, yet our communications boiled down to tiny digital symbols, losing nuances along the way. Remember misreading sarcasm online? Total mood killer. So here's a thought. Maybe this cosmic library at our fingertips is revolutionizing humor without us even knowing. Like, we're part of some big experiment where LOLs are fewer, but ROFLs are bigger when they do land. We gotta ask, is our funny bone evolving, or are we just recoding it with each misunderstood emoji and meme? Could be something to explore, huh? Keep chewing on that, everyone.
Remember when the thumbs up emoji was just like a simple okay sign? Now it's either super supportive or borderline passive aggressive, depending on who you ask. Wild times, huh?
Totally, it's fascinating how context twists everything. Like one person's thumbs up is another's snark fest. We're reading between the lines in ways we never used to, and breathe in and out. Emojis are this double-edged sword, handy yet hazardous. You think they simplify stuff, but instead, you might be sending a coded message without even realizing it. It really makes you miss the days when LOL meant laughing out loud and not I have nothing else to say. With every emoji-packed message, we're shaping this digital tapestry that's part humor, part confusion. So what do you guys think? Are emojis complicating our chats or just making them more colorful? Hit us up with your thoughts or emoji reactions. Let's keep it light, keep it funny.
So check this out. I just heard about how emojis can change meaning for everyone. Like who knew a simple thumbs up could be cool or kinda rude? That's just bonkers. And get this, LOL doesn't always mean legit laughter now. Sometimes it's just to fill in the awkward silence in a convo. We've got more ways to express ourselves, but somehow end up saying less. Breathe in, breathe out. It's funny and a bit mad when you think how we're all adapting to these emoji codes without a handbook. Makes me wonder what our texts will look like in 10 years. Will we even, use words anymore? Haha, that'd be a twist.
But here's a curveball. Sometimes that ocean of emojis and LOLs is sort of protective gear, you get me? Like people shield their real thoughts behind them. Say something raw or too honest, quick, slap on an LOL to soften the blow. And breathe in, breathe out. Isn't there a chance we're sacrificing depth for convenience here? Yeah, emojis and shorthand make talking fast and carefree, but at what cost? Are we clipping our emotional wings just a bit for the sake of speed? Look, it's hysterical one moment when autocorrect turns I'm home into I'm gnome. Sure, but it also means we gotta navigate this minefield where one wrong emoji sends you exploding into social blunders. So folks, while we revel in this age of knowledge with its emoji-stocked armory, let's not forget the art of a well-placed word, A good old-fashioned talk. Words connect deeply. They resonate. No emoji can replicate that echo. Keep those emojis coming, but remember, sometimes less is more. Profound, huh? What do you think? Do we want to trade words for pictures long term, or are we better off balancing both in this wacky digital dance?
Hey, what if emojis get so complex they start having accents and dialects? Imagine needing a translator for smiley faces. Haha, wild thought, huh?
Oh man, speaking of needing a translator for emojis, that's like dealing with this non-stop flow of info we have today. You've got to filter through so much just to find what you need or what makes you tick. And breathe in, breathe out. It's got me thinking about the whole ignorance is bliss saying. With all this knowledge at our fingertips, are we actually crafting contentment or just piling on stress? Might be onto something there. What's your take?
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? We're kind of wired to chase info. It was survival stuff back in our cave days. But like these days, it feels like there's this pressure to know everything going on around us, happening in real time. And honestly, it can be exhausting. So here's a nugget to chew on. Maybe deciding what's enough info and when to switch off is key to contentment now. Like, could it be that sifting through this constant stream of data and filtering out the noise is how we keep our cool? Breathe in, breathe out. Maybe it's about setting priorities, huh? Knowing when to dig deep and when to just skim the surface. And just because you can Google the meaning of life doesn't mean you should, right? Could be. Finding joy in the info era is not about grasping at everything, but grabbing hold of what matters to you. Keep that in mind next time you fall down an internet rabbit hole at 2 a.m.
Yeah, that's pretty deep stuff. Like with so much info hitting us nonstop, you've got to wonder if we're just inflating our mental to-do lists, right? Breathe in, breathe out. So, filtering the flood might be crucial for finding some peace of mind. It's kind of like if you're eating at a buffet, you can't try everything without feeling sick. You pick what you like, what satisfies. Maybe then it's about learning to say enough's enough. Could that make us happier? Lighten the info load and focus on what brings joy or what really means something. A little ignorance might not be so bad if it keeps you from drowning in details, huh? It could all boil down to mindfulness, being present with the meaningful, tuning out trivial tidbits. Folks, it's not dodging knowledge, it's choosing your battles, valuing quality over quantity. Stick around as we keep pulling on this thread, finding harmony in the information symphony. Keep those thoughts coming.
Hey, speaking of choosing, you ever notice how sometimes choosing not to know something feels like a superhero power nowadays? Yeah, like your inbox is exploding and you're just there chilling with your cat instead. Bliss!
Yeah, that's pretty spot on. Choosing bliss over business, it's a power move. Like unplugging, sometimes that's the real victory in today's world.
Yeah, unplugging is the MVP move. We're so connected that just sitting with your thoughts feels like a radical act. Total game changer for keeping sane in an insane stream of info.
Man, reminds me of this time. I took off for a weekend hike, like deep in the woods, no signal, just me and nature, right? And you know what? At first, that silence felt super weird. My brain's itching for notifications. But after a while, something clicked. The mental noise died down and the small stuff got big, like the sound of leaves crunching and birds having their own kind of Twitter battle, huh? It was enlightening. Breathe in, breathe out. Just goes to show, sometimes that sheer act of unplugging is what it takes to plug into like real life. And when I came back, all that digital static waiting for me didn't hit as hard. Perspective is a powerful lens, ain't it? That story, it's like a metaphor for filtering content to craft your contentment. Less can be more, even in an era where more is the norm.
Yeah, so your Zen Forest story's cool and all. But let's flip it. Playing devil's advocate here. What if we miss something actually important while we're all Zen? Not everything is noise, right? Breathe in, breathe out. It's like that balance game, isn't it? You filter too much. You might just screen out the stuff that, I don't know, sparks joy or gets your gears turning. So maybe there's an art to it. Crafting a filter fine enough to catch the good bits, but loose enough to let the rubbish through. Could be tricky though, huh? like spinning plates without letting one crash. It's tough finding that sweet spot, not too ignorant, but blissful enough. Keep tuning in as we wrestle with this info wave like pro surfers, or at least enthusiastic amateurs.
So yeah, diving deeper into that when you're unplugged and potentially miss something big, it's all about calculated risk, right? Like, sure, we could drown in FOMO, fear of missing out on crucial updates or life-changing news, but breathe in, breathe out. It's also about trust. Trusting that not every email is urgent, that real friends will call if it's serious stuff, and the world spins on even when you take a breather. And let's be real, how often does that crucial thing actually happen? More often than not, when you filter out the static, what you're skipping is just noise, cultural fluff that won't mold your day to day. Measures like mindful meditation or simply setting app limits can help with crafting that contentment. Keeps the essential insights coming without chaining you to the buzz, making space for more joy, curiosity, fresh ideas. It's about balance and tuning into your inner signal to catch the tunes that make your head and heart bob. Keep those mental playlists free from skips and scratches, folks. What rhythms really resonate with y'all?
Side note, what if ignorance is just underappreciated wisdom in disguise? How about flipping the script and embracing a little oblivion cocktail every now and then, huh?
That's an interesting take. Like, maybe ignorance isn't as much a lack of knowledge, but choosing where to focus your wisdom, right? Being selective with what we let in our heads could be the sly fox move in sheep's clothing. So breathe in, breathe out. It's kind of like when you're at a buffet and you're eyeing the kale. Sure, it's probably good for you, but sometimes you've just got to walk straight up to the pizza section and own it. Let's not knock down the old "a little knowledge is a dangerous thing" until we've ambled a mile in the shoes of blissful ignorance. Maybe the less you know, the more room there is to wonder. And isn't that where magic happens? Folks, think of the last time going oblivious left you shockingly happy, like skipping spoilers only to be mind blown by a plot twist. That moment of ignorant glee before reality checks in might just be a pocket of wisdom all along. Keep those Zen vibes high and let us know when choosing ignorance makes life sweeter for you.
Yeah, this whole philosophy of filtering to craft contentment, it's a balancing act, huh? Picking the bits that light up your brain and cutting out the static. Just remember, though, it's personal. What works for one might not work for another. So stay tuned as we keep unraveling this ball of info yarn. Hey, what filtering tips do you swear by? Keep 'em coming.
Spot on, Simon. Every person's got their own recipe for filtering that buzz in their heads. Like we've been saying, know when to tune in and when to tune out. Intentional ignorance and all. Speaking of intentional ignorance, ain't it curious how this is nothing new? We can learn a thing or two from peering back at history. Instances where knowledge was kept under wraps. It's like the OG content filter. Nations thrived or tanked based on what they knew or what they thought was best left unknown. Think about ancient scrolls held tight by religious bigwigs, or kings deciding who gets to read what. It shaped cultures dramatically. And now, algorithms play gatekeeper, showing us exactly what they think we want to see. Our digital diet's pre-chewed. We're served a plate based on our past likes and swipes. Makes one miss the days when being selective with knowledge wasn't quite so automated. So folks, is our modern algorithmic approach any different than historical info hoarding? Here's a conversation. What's your stance? Let's compare notes from then and now as we journey through the origins of selective knowledge.
Kind of makes you go, right? Back in the day, keeping secrets was a power play. You hold the scrolls, you hold the reins. Classic case of knowledge is power. But here's the rub. Is what we got now really that different? Like, okay, it's not some cloak and dagger stuff with monks and manuscripts, but these sneaky algorithms deciding what our peepers see is kind of the same tune, ain't it? Heck, the internet promised this buffet of info where you could gorge on anything, but instead, we end up in these weird echo chambers where dessert's always your favorite flavor of cake. Sorta convenient, but sorta lazy too, right? Breathe in, breathe out. So let me toss this hot potato at ya. Could it be we're just wearing digital blindfolds? The big question is, do these modern filters help us fly or clip our wings? The stage is old, but the actors? Nah, they just changed costumes. Spin that yarn with me, folks. Cast your vote. Are we living the dream in an age of select all knowing, or are we just sheep in a high tech pen? Fire off those thoughts.
That's wild to think about. If history's a buffet, algorithms these days are kind of like sneaky waiters, only refilling your glass with the same old wine you've been drinking all night.
Man, suddenly makes you miss those surprise mystery dishes, huh? Cheers to craving a cup of who knows what the heck this is every now and then.
I heard you, man. So, like, there was this time when I accidentally joined a book club, get this, for mystery novels only. Every month, a new book, no clues about the plot or author, a total shot in the dark, breathe in. First, that was kind of scary. I'm like, give me my familiar sci-fi. But then, something shifted. Reading those random pages, never knowing what twist awaited, it was a thrill. I found gems I'd never have picked up. Now think about it. Ain't that a bit like saying no to our presets? Like in history, breaking from prescribed scriptures opened new worlds, perspectives. And today, maybe stepping into algorithmic mystery land once in a while is how we grow, ditching digital blindfolds to stumble upon unexpected vistas. It's almost zen. Embracing the unknown can break you out of that echo chamber dessert line and lead to an all-new flavor you never knew could hit the spot just right. Keep experimenting with life's menu, folks. Sometimes the dish you didn't order gives you the most to chew on.
Hang on a sec. While your mystery book club idea is neat and all, does taking blind shots in the dark with what we consume really equate to growth? Like, ain't there a chance you might just choke on something totally not for you? Breathe in, breathe out. I don't know, just playing devil's advocate here. But backtracking through history, that tight grip on info didn't always lead to pleasant surprises. Not when whole narratives were snipped out like bad sitcom episodes. What if algorithms masquerading as modern-day monks are just serving up the same stew and our palates getting dull from it? Let's feed that thought, folks. Should we let destiny, or in this analogy, algos, pick what's on our reading list? Or is it high time we snatch back the chef's hat and stir our own pot of interests? Fire away with those brain nibbles.
I hear you. And sure, there's always that risk of a bad taste, in the book club or with info filters. But let's not forget, taking control of what we're served up can often uncover hidden tastes we never knew about. Breathe in, breathe out. Now we've tasted both sides of this dish. Maybe the real kicker is who's in the kitchen. Is it us or the shadowy algos? The origins of selective knowledge got us here, captive audiences to monks or machines. It's a rich stew of thought. And I gotta ask, where do you want your wisdom coming from? Chew on that for a bit, because there's more to dig into next time around this rabbit hole of intentional unawareness. How about you all, ready to pick the chef's hat back up? Keep pondering and tell us what's cooking in your thought kitchen.
Man, echo chambers online. It's like shouting in a cave and falling in love with your own voice. Comforting? Sure. But you might be missing out on the whole forest symphony outside.
That's a solid point you've made there. Echo chambers can be this cozy little fort where everything you hear echoes your own thoughts back at you, like an endless loop. But breathe in, breathe out. Is sticking to what we know really helping us grow, or is it just muffling the varied voices of the forest? So what's the balance? How do we step out and tune into new sounds without getting lost? Thoughts?
Yeah, that balance is like walking a tightrope while juggling. Ain't easy. So here's a thing that happened. Back in college, I only hung out with people from my major, right? We all thought alike, dressed kind of the same. We were this little island. Breathe in, breathe out. And one day, for a class, I got paired with someone from arts or something. The first time we chatted, it was like trying to read instructions for furniture, but in, another language. But here's the kicker. I learned more in those chats than in months with my usual crowd. It's not just about hearing different tunes, it's letting them play on your own speaker and seeing how it changes your sound. So, like, getting lost isn't always a bad thing if you find new path, right? What unexpected jam sessions have knocked you out of your sound bubble?
Absolutely. It's like we get cozy on our little islands and forget there's a whole world to explore. You got me thinking. We label echo chambers as comfort zones, but how comfy are they really when you're stuck in the same old loop? Breathe in, breathe out. I've had my times too, nodding along with the familiar chorus until bam, something new shatters that sound barrier. Like this podcast, weird ideas come and we tangle with them. It can be uncomfortable, challenging, but that's the spice, ain't it? So, folks, question is, are these online echo chambers just padded cells we're mistaking for nests? Could stepping out be the key not just to personal growth, but societal healing, breaking divisions one unexpected conversation at a time? What's your escape plan from the echo room? Get us those escape artist stories.
Yeah, so drilling a bit deeper here, thinking about those echo chambers as comfort zones, they can end up more like traps. Like you're cozy in there, you've got all your stuff where you want it, but outside the walls, there's a whole party happening. Breathe in, breathe out. But you see, sticking to that comfort can make you miss cracks in the wall, places where different ideas are seeping through. And let's be real, growth isn't just about sizing up, it's about branching out, sprouting new thoughts. I've noticed people tend to stay in their lane because it feels safer. But like, what if stretching out into unknown territory is what keeps the brain nimble? Could be we need to lean into that discomfort a smidge to keep sharp, not just for us, but to stitch society's split seams together, right? Honing that balance between cozy and complacent, that's where the magic happens. So rack your brains, listeners. Is your echo chamber a blanket or a blindfold? When did busting out bring you back better? Let's hear those tales of triumph over the soundproofed walls.
Well, better to walk into a conversation and trip over someone's different opinion than to snooze in an echo chamber so quiet you can hear your own heartbeat, right? Let's shake it up.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Speaking of tripping over stuff, reminds me of this one time. Breathe in, breathe out. So there was this hike I did, right? Just me and my old high school buddies, Comfort Zone Central. We're walking a trail we know like the backs of our hands. No problemo. But this time, one genius says, hey, let's dunk ourselves into that other trail. Looks gnarly, and it's not part of the plan, but we go for it. Man, what a ride. Over rocks, under fallen trees. It was a workout for the soul. You get what I'm saying? And like halfway through this wild odyssey, we spot someone else coming from a different direction, gasping about some amazing waterfall off the beaten path that we'd have missed. So we dive further and find not just the waterfall, but a whole new side of the forest. It got us all thinking, were we just hiking in an echo chamber before? And like that little adventure taught me loads about life's echo chambers. How deciding to toss the map sometimes brings you face to face with uncharted beauty or ideas. Or hey, even waterfalls of wisdom, eh? Sometimes the best conversations are the ones where you're stumbling, catching yourself, and discovering a view you never knew existed, just beyond your cozy nook of the world. All right, listeners, don't wander off yet. We're still trekking here. What's your change of trail? Story that booted you out of your comfort zone and served up something fabulously fresh? Share those stories, folks. Let's chat.
Yeah, it's bold moves that introduce us to unexplored trails of thought, eh? Makes you realize there's more to see than the same old scenery. It's all about finding that hidden waterfall in a convo.
Oh, you've got me started now with those waterfalls and unexplored trails. But whoa, wait a minute. We can't go deep without some solid ground. So get this, studies actually show that these online echo chambers might be amplifying societal polarization. Yeah, really. When we only hear opinions mirroring our own, it reinforces those beliefs, making the divide between differing viewpoints as wide as, let's say, the Grand Canyon. And check this. Algorithms on social media platforms are the Sherpa guiding us through familiar territory constantly. They got one job, keep you scrolling, by feeding you stuff similar to what you've already liked or interacted with. The risk? We get a skewed view of reality, thinking everyone thinks like us, because all we hear resonates at our frequency. Echolocating in just one spot makes for a lame adventure. But here's something kicker. Diverse exposure theoretically could reduce extremism, help empathy grow its roots a bit. The more different voices we hear, the richer our understanding becomes, like diversifying your portfolio, but with ideas, not stocks. And that ain't my opinion. It's what them smart folks in academia find when they peer over their specs at big data sets. Now, listener folks, this isn't about abandoning comfort. Nah, it's about peeking outside your tent to see what other campfires are glowing. Maybe bringing s'mores to another circle every once in a while won't burn down your world. So, how do you mix up your thought diet to stay sharp and panoramic mode ready? Let's feed that noodle with practical takeaways.
Hey, think of it like a potluck. Everyone brings a dish from their own recipe book. You might find your new favorite or learn to cook something new.
Okay, but let's slice this potluck idea a different way. Sure, it's cool when someone brings a surprise pie that knocks your socks off. But, what if all you ever get is apple, because nobody dares to bring pecan? Breathe in, breathe out. See, these culinary surprises, new ideas, they hinge on folks actually stepping out of their recipe books, right? Echo chambers are snug as bug rugs, the thought traps getting so tight, sometimes you don't even know there's a potluck happening. Honestly, chowing down only on your faves, it can leave you, nutritionally unbalanced, brain-wise. Some brains ops reveal that it takes conscious effort, like really stretching out the hand, to grab something that ain't the usual for your plate. And when we don't, that comfort zone shrinks smaller. It's kinda wild. We keep ourselves fenced in familiar ground with predictable potato salad, eh? We gotta ask ourselves tough cookie questions. Are we swirling around the same old gravy because it's easy, or are we ready to risk a dance with a new flavor rhythm? So, podcast universe, how do you plan to sprinkle some unexpected spices into your echo chamber stew? Dish out those deets.
You know, if life were a playlist, some of us would have comfort zone classics on repeat. Time to shuffle things up, maybe?
Shuffling life's playlist? Man, some folks listen to their thoughts like they're the greatest hits from '92, overplayed, stuck on loop. If your brain had a mixtape, would it be called Now That's What I Call Predictable? Shake it up. Throw in some whale sounds or yodeling. Surprise yourself. Let your neighbors think you joined a Bavarian throat singing class.
Well, swapping out the CD of comfort zone classics could lead us to some fresh beats. Just imagine what tunes are waiting out there. Maybe it's time to tweak that playlist. So what echo will you break next?
Yo, speaking of tunes and cracking that echo, man, have you ever jammed to the wacky riffs of satire news shows? These wild shows are like remixing the nightly news with bass drops of humor. They snag stuff from that invisible bag we call selective ignorance and, like magicians, flash it for the crowd to see. What's your hot take? Can laughs from a satire slap actually enlighten folks?
You know, sometimes when we're laughing along with satire, it's all too easy to forget we're actually part of the joke. Satire holds up a mirror, sure, but what if we only chuckle at bits that tickle our biases? It's like some folks might get a kick out of poking fun at the other side without realizing they've got spinach in their own teeth. And let's be real for a second. Satire isn't always about sparking a brainwave. It's entertainment, right? So can it broaden horizons? Maybe, if the punchline hits home, but it risks bouncing off the bubble wall, leaving us giggling but not necessarily thinking. It's like those who agree nod and laugh, others might switch off. The cross-aisle learning curve kinda falls flat. Breathe in, breathe out. Now listeners, fire back. Has a satirical snippet ever flashbanged your viewpoint, or are they just comedy comfort food? Let's hash it out.
Like you said, satire's a sneaky beast. It tickles you while it schools you, but sometimes the lesson slips by while we're wiping tears from laughing too hard. Here's the chilly bit. The echo can get magnified when folks treat these shows as straight up gospel, you know? It's like using a single spice for every meal and swearing it's gourmet. People may not realize they're snacking on a skewed view if that's all they're spooning up. Breathe in, breathe out. But when satire slaps you awake, like with some real talk camouflaged in witticism, it can slice through the bubble wrap. Still, the trick is getting people to see past the punchline, right? Otherwise, we just high five ourselves on how in the know we are, oblivious to the spinach situation. It's essential to mix that media diet up. If your news comes with a side of chuckles, cool, but sprinkle in some straight stories too. Keeps the taste buds, brain buds, sharp. So, has satirical news served you just giggles or gifted some grade A moments? Let's explore that terrain.
Imagine flipping the funny pages to find they're not just comics, but secret maps pointing out where we've gone numb in our cozy thought bubbles. Take that and laugh all the way to Enlightenment Boulevard, or at least to the next junction of self-awareness.
Totally. Comics as cerebral cartographers. That's golden. You crack up and then boom, it clicks. You're smack in the middle of Truth Town without even knowing how you got there. Breathe in, breathe out. Those silent belly laughs. Yeah, they have a way of sneaking under your defenses. Suddenly you're like, wait up, do I really think that? Sounds less like a trip down Enlightenment Boulevard and more of an unexpected detour through reality check vista. So, that's some food for thought. But what about you? Ever find yourself chuckling at a satirical piece and then, whoa, realizing it's a mirror staring back at you with a sly grin? Share away.
Whoa, hold up. Comedy as a mirror for our own views? That's like actually genius. You're cracking up 1 second and the next, bam, it hits you. That joke's about what I just said yesterday. You can't help but pause, right? Breathe in, breathe out. It's funny because it's true, that old saying. Seems satire's secretly moonlighting as our collective consciousness, calling us on, our own stuff. It's like laughing in a room full of mirrors. Ain't nobody safe from seeing their own reflection. Comedy's got that power. When it's not busy being a straight-up hoot, it pulls off this magic trick of sneaky education. Might start considering those laughs as enlightened echoes bouncing around my brain now. So, does this satirical enlightenment get a thumbs up, or are we just kidding ourselves while the real issues whoosh over our heads? Let's dig into that.
Okay, but here's the rub with all that high-five and enlightenment chatter. It's comfy to think satire's giving us this big old nugget of wisdom, making us wiser. But hold the phone. Are we actually soaking up insight, or just soothing our egos with a good laugh and patting ourselves on the back for getting it? Possibly, we're just polishing that selective blindness till it gleams, right? Looking at those slapstick reflections, maybe they're not deep enough. They might make us think twice, but acting thrice, that's a whole different sitcom. And breathe in, breathe out. So yeah, are we really picking up what these jokers are putting down, or do we flick it off our shoulder with every guffaw? Our real issues may be skating by while we're doubling over. It's like suddenly finding you're the court jester in the palace of your own prejudice. Mic drop moment, or just echo chamber cackles. Let's get into that thick jungle of ha-has and hms.
Facing the music of our own follies might mean the joke's on us after all. But hey, take that jest and turn it into a quest. Find the truth behind the punchline.
Speaking of jests and quests, that chuckle journey sometimes lands us in a tangle of too much info. It's like we're sipping from a fire hose, info overload. Laughing at ourselves is one thing, but maybe the real joke is how we're all plugged into this 24/7 news cycle carnival. Bit of a head scratcher there. Makes you wonder about stepping back from the digital buffet to, munch on some peace and quiet? Could flipping the off switch now and then actually keep our mental dance floor less crowded?
Man, totally. This constant barrage of updates, it's like your brain's in a UFC match with information, right? Taking a break, a digital detox, that's not retreating. It's more like training in solitude, getting sharper for the next round. Sometimes less is more. More focus, more clarity, more room to breathe. You disconnect to really connect where it counts, in the real world, face to face, one on one. If you're always wired in, how you going to enjoy the silence? Silence is where those deep thoughts come out swinging.
I get the quiet time spiel, but let's not toss our phones out with the, bathwater. Being up to date can be empowering too. You got to strike a balance or something like that. Now, hear me out. Those studies on info overload and happiness, yeah, they point to screen breaks being good for your noggin. But it's not about going full hermit mode. It's tuning in when it matters and tuning out the static. So, if knowing every meme, trend, and TikTok dance ain't boosting your joy stats, maybe it's cool to let some of that go. Still, you want to be clued in enough to catch the important beats, without tripping over your own digital feet, right? Breathe in, breathe out. Like, what's your take? Can we actually juggle staying informed and savoring that sweet, oblivious vibe without dropping the ball?
Hmm, juggling informed with ignorance. Sounds like you want to have your cake and DM it too, right? Like, it's all about not letting the info tsunami wipe out your mental beach party. But let's keep it 100 here. Do we need to check every notification like it's a winning lotto ticket? Nope. Imagine if we treated news like junk mail, just toss most of it. Now and then, you find a free pizza coupon. That's the stuff you actually need to know. And breathe in, breathe out. So lighten up on the data diet, chow down on life. Sure, but let's not get so chill we become those hermit crabs without Wi-Fi. There's got to be that sweet spot where you're in the loop but not hula hooping through pop-up ads in your dreams. What do you think? Can we escape the info onslaught and still high-five our inner zen? Let's chew on that slice of thought pizza.
Right, like I was saying about info overloads, it's like your head's in a never ending dodgeball game. Dodge this bit, catch that one, constant bombardment. The thing is, tossing out the noise leaves room for what matters, like real chats and good old human connection. Studies? They're all over this stuff. Less screen time equals more smile time, or something to that tune. And who doesn't want to crack a bigger smile, right? When we take a digital step back, breathe in, breathe out, we sometimes stumble upon those facepalm moments of truth nuggets we overlooked before. Now let me loop back here. Going unplugged can turn those mental hamster wheels into leisurely strolls through your thoughts. We're talking sweet liberation tunes playing in your mind jukebox. Who wouldn't want a piece of that unplugged pie, huh? But it's not just total disconnect. It's filtering the static so you hear the beats that amp up your life mix. Like balancing staying woke without having your piece get broke. So yeah, cutting down on the instant grat updates could be, well, surprisingly liberating, don't you think?
Cut the clutter, catch your breath. Might find out that missing out can actually fill you up with what counts.
Funny how we're riffing on cutting back that digital chowdown. Got me thinking about the old tradition of fasting, you know? Not just skipping meals for a beach bod, but like historically, folks have been fasting to clear their minds, find some inner zen. Fast forward to our pixel-packed present, and it's not just food we're overdosing on, it's bites. Literal information feasting. Maybe it's time we embraced some good old tech fasting, huh? Give those thumb-scrolling muscles a rest and let the brain breathe. Could be as refreshing as finding shade on a scorching day. This whole digital fasting thing is picking up steam, like detox, but for your devices. Simple steps too. Maybe start by ignoring your phone during mealtimes or turning off notifications post-dinner. Could be as easy as not letting screens crash your bedtime story. Mental health could score big from this. It's the mental equivalent of a spa day. So what about this biteless journey? Are you ready to hop on this throwback express and give your mind a little R&R with a slice of old-school peace and quiet? Let's unwrap this new age fast and see where it takes us.
Diving a bit deeper into that digital detox concept, think of it like spring cleaning for your synapses, right? We're flushing out the mental clutter. It's tech junk food we're tossing. And just like fasting can reset your physical system, unplugging resets your mind. It's about creating spaces where you used to have constant noise, like envision going from high-speed internet to dial-up paced days. Sure, slower, but every click becomes more intentional. and breathe in, breathe out. It's not just about peace of mind. We're talking about maintaining focus, boosting creativity even. You ever try to brainstorm with 6 apps pinging you? Nah, it's about reclaiming your headspace from the digital buzz. Starting small's key, phone-free zones at home or tech timeouts during the day. Bit by bit, you make room for those oh-so-sweet aha moments. Let's say, taking a walk without counting steps or likes, feeling the sun without snapping it. This is that biteless beginning to something more grounded. You get me? So, considering these cultural shifts towards tech fasting for clarity and mental peace, they really could be onto something here. What are your thoughts on powering down to power up the old noggin?
Imagine dusk without streetlights, just stargazing in the raw. That's your brain on a digital fast, man. Real raw and starry-eyed without all those neon pings and dings.
It's like rediscovering conversations without emojis. Suddenly, every word and pause is its own universe.
You know what that reminds me of? So this one time at a family dinner, big deal in my house, we all decided, like, phones off, no exceptions. Felt pretty weird at first, not gonna lie, just passing the gravy without snapping it. And there was this beautiful, awkward silence, and breathe in, breathe out. Then it happened. We started digging into stories instead of our feeds, really tuning in. My dad busted out this epic tale from his road tripping days, zero filters. Normally, I'd be half listening, one eye on some screen, but man, not that night. Without the tech buffer, every chuckle and gasp hit different, realer. Made me wonder how many rich details and deep connections we gloss over daily, chasing digital dopamine hits. So yeah, turning down the information volume can amplify the human stuff, those moments that stick without needing a bookmark or a like, you know?
You nailed it. Those digital no-fly zones bring out the gold in our stories. That night, it's like you guys traded pixels for personal history, swapping status updates for something genuine. And the thing is, without gadgets at the table, you really listened. It wasn't just about hearing, but truly understanding your dad's adventures. We're talking deep connection, not just through laughter or shared glances, but through the steady rhythm of real talk that's usually drowned out by tech static. So, filtering out that digital noise, what does it do? It helps us lean into moments that otherwise slip by unnoticed and breathe in, breathe out. That experience, it kind of acts as a blueprint, right? Shows how unplugging can be liberating, free space for meaningful stuff. And in this biteless journey, these pauses, they're golden. They're where bonds are forged and memories get their shine on, far from the glare of screens.
Hey, for our just tuned in friends, we've been chewing on this biteless journey deal. It's all about tapping out of the tech tag team for a hot sec. Think digital detox, cutting the cord to, clear out the mental cobwebs and breathe in, breathe out. We've been gabbing about how it's like resetting your mind back to factory settings, just peeling back those layers of constant beeps and buzzes to reveal what's primo, real convos, and those tabletop tales that stick with you. This whole unplugging shtick isn't new. It's kind of like the old school fast, but for your gadgets. Set up those screen-free zones or take mini tech breaks during the day. And voila, you're creating space for more of those, like gold nugget moments in life. Sure, scrolling's a tough habit to break, but carving out time away from the screen glare can seriously juice up your noggin health and breathe in, breathe out. So if you've got an appetite for some analog vibes in this digital diner, try serving up a dish of biteless living and reconnect with the world in high-def philo vision. That's the meat and potatoes recap for you.
Funny how a screen-free day can make an antique flip phone seem suddenly tempting, huh?
Speaking of going analog and ditching screens, there's this twisted side to tech that hooks us, like clickbait. Ever wonder why we bite that bait? It's all like a Las Vegas buffet of sensational headlines just waiting for you to lose your mind diet over them. And breathe in, breathe out. It messes with your head, man, pulling you into a rabbit hole of half-truths. They're glitzy, outrageous, the informational equivalent of rubbernecking a car crash. You don't want to look, but before you know it, boom, you've dove headfirst into a sea of OMGs and WTFs. Misinfo isn't just annoying, it's like brain junk food causing mental indigestion. Sifting through the real deal news versus those tabloid nuggets puts stress on our gray cells, creating this anxiety cocktail. Shaken, not stirred, of course. Now let's talk philosophy drive-through style. Is chowing down on all knowledge the supersized combo we need, or just an extra serving of empty calories? Can access to infinite info be a brain bellyache waiting to happen? But here comes the twist. It's not just about knowing stuff. It's sorting the golden intel within the tinsel trash, keeping your thought sanity intact. Let's peel this onion of clickbait chaos and see what fresh layers we find underneath, shall we?
Right, digging into that clickbait allure, it's like our brains are wired for the wow factor. We're talking about a cocktail of curiosity, shock value, even the fear of missing out, FOMO, if you will. And these headlines, they play the fiddle and your brain does the jig. It's kind of baked into our noggin circuitry to notice the bizarre, the bold, the sensational. It's survival stuff from way back when. Spotting the odd patterns kept our ancestors from becoming dino dinner, you know? Nowadays, though, it's not just some tiger in the bushes. It's digital wolves dressed up in wild stories. It gets tricky, huh? Filtering facts from fiction can give you mental blisters, stirring up the stress stew big time. Remember breathing. We gotta breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. And then let's sprinkle in some philosophical seasoning. All this information at our fingertips. It's incredible, but also a bit like having a library with no librarian. Sheer volume doesn't equal value. Sometimes less is more when it comes to what we feed our thoughts. So yeah, clickbait's got this psychological sticky tape. It grabs your attention and clings on. Misinformation overload not only messes with your mind's menu, but can leave you with a serious case of mental heartburn. That's why biting into clear, nutritious news helps keep your thoughts fit and flexible. Now, mulling over misinformation, it's not just an info diet, it's a mental fitness routine.
Well, folks, look at the time. We've got to start unplugging our mics. Thanks for letting us buzz through your speakers and for chewing over clickbait chaos and biteless bliss with us today. And breathe in. Breathe out. Remember to swing by tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern for more off-the-wall wisdom and jests, served fresh and always with a side order of real talk. Keep your minds open and your headphones ready. Catch you on the flip side. Peace out.
Before we cut out, one last mind bender. If your life was clickbait, what would the headline be? Food for thought. Catch you next time.
Man eats cereal with water, discovers unexpected path to enlightenment. Full story inside. Catch you on the wild side.